Maybe you've heard about the word blockchain, but you simply don't know anything about it. The simplest definition of blockchain is the following. Blockchain is an immutable ledger for recording transactions without referring to third-party applications and banks. For example, David owes John $200. Via online money transfer, David can repay John what he owes. So basically, David used third-party applications to transfer money from his account to John's account. But sometimes, transactions can fail due to some technical problems. But the technology of blockchain is an ideal option for delivering information such as payments, orders, and accounts via an immutable ledger, where only members who have access to the network can use it and view the information. In a blockchain, once the information is sent, it can't be modified or deleted. It will stay inside the blockchain, and everyone with access to the blockchain can view the transaction record. Also, cryptocurrencies came to life, which they are digital currencies designed to work on decentralized systems in which transactions are verified. These currencies run on a technology called blockchain, which makes them protected by strong encryption algorithms and don't require a central authority like a bank to transfer transactions. An example of a digital currency is Bitcoin, who is the most common cryptocurrency. Let us say David, John, and Jack owes Damien 3 Bitcoins. At first, David has 3 Bitcoins, John has 4, Jack has 5, and Damien has 1 Bitcoin. David owes Damien 3 Bitcoins, so he sends him 3 Bitcoins. This transaction between David and Damien is recorded as a block of data, which the data describes the transaction details, which is visible for all of those 4 friends. So it will say David sent 3 Bitcoins to Damien. Then it will indicate how many each of these individuals have Bitcoin in their wallet before and after the transaction. Like before, David had 3 Bitcoin, John had 4, Jack had 5, and Damien had 1 Bitcoin. After the transaction, David has 0 Bitcoin, John has 4, Jack has 5, and Damien has 4 Bitcoins. Now, John owes Damien 3 Bitcoins too. Of course, John will send 3 Bitcoins to Damien, and a new block is created which stores the details of this transaction. Like John sent 3 Bitcoins to Damien. Also, John has 1 Bitcoin, Damien has 7, David has 0, and Jack has 5 Bitcoins. Another transaction happens between Jack and Damien, and a new block will be created, where Jack sends 3 Bitcoins to Damien and the information will be recorded. These blocks are linked to each other, which form a blockchain, and each block takes reference from the block before. Like block 3 records the transactions happened between Jack and Damien, but also knows how many Bitcoins those 4 friends have before the transaction between Jack and Damien, because it takes reference from the previous block. All of this is called a ledger, which each of these individuals have a copy of this ledger, making it a public distributed ledger between John, Jack, David, and Damien. In a nutshell, there is multiple blocks containing any kind of data. These blocks are linked together chronologically. If a new information is added, a new block will be created. These blocks connected to each other form a ledger, which records every action that is happening. This is a simple metaphor. Imagine the ledger as a book. When someone does something, their action will be written in that book. Because blockchain is decentralized, it is meant to be stored in multiple devices or computers, and only the devices that have access to the blockchain can see the transactions or information recorded. Now, what kind of data is stored in a blockchain? Well, anything. It can be the time that the transaction was made, where it arrived, the date, and much more. Now let us dig deep in the transaction between David and Damien. Both of these individuals are inside the same network with John and Jack, and each of these individuals have a public key and a private key. Public key is a key which allows you to receive transactions. This public key can only be unlocked by a private key that is paired to it. So private key is a key that only the user who owns it knows about it. Also, it enables the holder to make cryptocurrency transactions and prove ownership of their holdings. So David passes the number of Bitcoin he wants to send to Damien, followed by his address and Damien's address too. It will be passed to a hashing algorithm to be encrypted and signed by David's private key to indicate that David is the one starting the transaction. Then it will be sent to the public key. But using Damien's private key, he can decrypt it and gain access to the transaction and gain his 2 Bitcoins. Now, if you remember, I mentioned the word hashing. Well, cryptocurrencies use hashing algorithms that converts data to a fixed length character or a hashing key that is impossible to guess. Different cryptocurrencies use different hashing algorithms, Bitcoin uses a hashing algorithm named SHA-256. Now to explain hashing, what happens exactly is that the hash function takes an input that produces a fixed length output. The length of the input can be small or large, like a small text or a large database. The output depends on the algorithm used, like if the algorithm is SHA-256, the length of the output should be 256 bits, and the output is called the hashing key with a length of 256. Let us say I apply the SHA-256 algorithm on this sentence. I will get the hash value of 256 bits, and each data has different hash value. So if you compare both of these different data, they have different hash values, but it is too rare for two data to have the same hash value. In that case, it is called collision. Of course, we have different type of SHA algorithms, like SHA-256, which is 256 bits, or SHA-512, which is 512 bits. But overall, if we have the hash value, can we use it to find the input? Well, no, it's impossible to guess the input using the hash value because it is irreversible. Now, how hashing is implemented in blockchain? I have this phrase, John likes apples, and I've applied the SHA-256 algorithm on it and got the hash value below. If I change apples to apple without S, the whole hash value will change. Now, how this applies on blockchain? Well, imagine block A containing data. You apply some hashing on it and obtain this hash value. Now, we will link block A to block B, and they form a blockchain. Block B will contain its own data, its own hashing value, and the hash value of the previous block, because we know that blocks takes reference from previous blocks. So, the block B has its own hash value and the hash value of block A. Now let us say someone changes the data in block A. Of course, we know that when you apply some changes to data, its hash value will change. Now you'll ask yourself, okay, so what's the point? Well, if you compare the new hash value of block A and the old hash value of block A in block B, it is different. So someone changed the data, and that is how you can know how your data was manipulated, by looking on the hash value. Now, this technology really can change the process of transactions between people and can revolutionize the world's economy. Although it's still new, some institutions started implementing blockchain, like banks for example, and soon enough even more institutions will put blockchain into practice, like hospitals for example, to store patients' data, or maybe normal people to store their personal data. Now, I hope this video was good enough to educate you about blockchain. Now, blockchain is not the only new technology available, so maybe you need to check out this video and discover technologies that will impact the world we live in. Or maybe you want to learn a new skill, like programming in Python. Well, make sure to go ahead and check out this Python tutorial playlist for beginners.